Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And we have a returning guest today who first appeared in August 2021, which was episode 161, so just over 6 months ago. Carl Hardy is the CEO of Cloudbreak Discovery, a junior exploration development company who partners with explorers and developers to advance their assets and who have a focus at the moment on battery and base metal projects. They own equity positions and royalties in a variety of different projects across multiple jurisdictions, primarily in the Americas and Africa. Carl has a background in finance and executive management and has a number of directorships, or has had a number of directorships within the resources sector. And he's going to give us an update on what he's been doing with Cloudbreak and what they've achieved over the last 6 months and what's going to be happening for the rest of this year. So that's welcome, Kyla, to the podcast. How you doing, Kyla?
I'm doing great. Great to be back, Rob, and appreciate it.
Yeah, and obviously you're in London at the moment. I think when we last spoke, you were in Canada. Obviously, you're here for meetings, and you were just moaning about the gridlock and the tube strikes.
Yeah, it's making everything pretty interesting. I'll admit that, but it's nice to be back in London. I absolutely love it here, regardless of the gridlock and the tube strikes.
So I just wondered if you can give us a brief overview about yourself for those that haven't listened to the previous episode. And I do encourage people to go back to episode 161. Which was in August 2021, to listen obviously to the first part of this podcast, or the first part of us speaking. So just wondering if you can just give us a brief overview of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the natural resource sector my entire life, from logging to oil and gas and to mining. Primarily on the operations side for most of that period. As a diamond driller, worked oil rigs, worked in the logging industry as an engineering assistant, and sort of accidentally moved over to the finance side and I founded a couple of exploration management firms, started helping raise money, and ended up building an advisory firm over a period of time, which really grew our presence in the capital markets. And that was, I guess, started that in mid 2015, and here we are today, moving all the pieces down the piste, if you will, and having Cloudbreak as our key holding moving forward.
Yeah, and again, one of you just give us a brief overview of Cloudbreak. Again, you would have probably gave us more detail in the previous episode.
Absolutely, yeah. So Cloudbreak Discovery, it's a project generator for the natural resource sectors. So we basically, we've married a good corporate team and a great technical team, and we go out and choose jurisdictions and commodities and acquire early stage to mid stage, usually pre-resource assets, either through staking or through partnership with other prospectors and juniors. Move them forward until a point where usually the first or second exploration phases, if you will, and then bring a partner in to advance them. And in exchange for that, we get cash and milestone payments, royalties, and then usually significant equity positions in those partners moving forward.
So what how have your projects developed since we last spoke? Like I said, probably about just over 6 months ago.
Yeah, we had a very active year last year, both internally and externally with our partners moving those projects forward. Norseman Silver, as an example, moved the Silver Vista, the Silver Switchback, and the Caribou projects forward last year. They ended up with some pretty significant grab samples and some really interesting IP on the Caribou project in particular, showing two pretty interesting systems, which will be followed up by drilling this year. I'll note that of 145 samples taken over the strike of the two defined areas, over 30% of those had 1% plus copper in them, which we were really excited about. That's a good start, if you ask me. And they continue to outline a large geochem anomaly on the silver switchback, setting that up for drilling for this year as well. And they did drill the Silver Vista project, which, from my recollection, they came up with some interesting sniffs and are starting to vector in for their next drill program and hopefully expand that mineralization that they've gotten into. With that, I believe we talked about last time, we formed a strategic alliance with Alianza Minerals, and that's bearing fruit for us and them. 2 projects in the United States, one in Colorado, or sorry, both in Colorado, on the Utah border and to the north, and the State Line project, as well as the Klondike project. So Klondike, we executed our first phase exploration program on that, mapping, sampling, prospecting, and ended up with over 6 kilometers of mineralized structure, samples up to 6.23% copper, which that was pretty exciting for us. And our target there is a structurally controlled sediment hosted copper exploration target. And State Line is a large regional play that we're looking at along the Lisbon Valley anticline. And we're about 7 or 8 kilometers southwest of the Lisbon Valley mine on the Colorado side of the border there. And we're looking at a large anticline that continues for another several kilometers down to the southeast. And both of those now are being advanced by Allied Copper Corp. And we're expecting a drill program sometime early to mid second quarter on those to see them moving forward. And, you know, we've got our fingers crossed there, but it's a good start. And other than that, Temas Resources, they're advancing the LeBlanche project through PEA right now and metallurgy still. There were some holdups there on the permitting, but that's been solved, and we should see the drills on the ground there this year. And outside of that, the Northwest portfolio, which I believe we had just staked last time we spoke, 3 of the projects there are now in partner hands with believe it's about 300,000 plus of exploration expenditure for that area this year. So as you see, that's it's been a pretty busy 6 months, and the team is I feel just getting going. It's we are actively looking in West Africa right now, base metals, bulks, and precious metals. It's a key project generation area for us. Specifically the greenstone belts down along the coastal countries there to the west and the south, and our lithium initiatives continue to move forward in the United States. We're particularly focused on brines there, and we should have some interesting news to talk about in the coming months here. It's been an endeavor, if you will, putting it all together, but it's 18 months of working through the geology and the engineering is showing us a pretty large system that we're excited about, with significant data points across the whole structure. So I think really West Africa and our lithium initiatives for the coming 12 months are really going to be the value drivers, if you will. And I mean, the team is we have a small team, but I'd say a highly effective one, and they're looks calm on the surface, but their little legs are moving pretty hard underneath the water.
Yeah, you've certainly obviously packed a lot in in the last 6 months since we last spoke, and obviously, yeah, I take it's obviously down to your people, down to your systems, and just pushing through any challenges that you've obviously come up against. Moving forward, what sort of exploration programs have you sort of got planned for the rest of the year?
Absolutely, yeah. So part of the Northwest portfolio consists of the Northern Treasure East and the Northern Treasure West. They sit adjacent to another Canadian junior just north of the Golden Triangle in northwestern British Columbia. called Brixton Metals. Brixton's had some great discoveries on their projects here, and a really nice looking resource come out last year. We look smart because we staked that ground right before they came out with it, and we're happy to have that ground now, because it's a lot of what they've been doing is really on trend with the new ground that we've staked and underexplored ground. So we are going to execute most likely an airborne survey, as well as followed up by mapping and prospecting on the ground there, and get that project to either a joint venture or an option agreement ready state for someone who's looking for a key asset. Outside of that, we anticipate staking probably 2 more projects in the Western United States, focused on copper with our joint venture partner, and there'll be ground programs going on those ones. There are a few other bits and pieces coming together, though, that we think are going to really highlight what we're working on, and the project generator model in general, and just really tying in the royalty piece around how project generators work, and really being able to grow that. And I can't wait to talk to you about the specifics, but we're going to have to wait till a future date for those ones there.
Yeah. Is there sort of any projects in your current portfolio, in particular, that sort of really excites you, and obviously you want to share with us that information?
Yeah. I think the Northern Treasure is one we're really excited about, and thus probably spending more on it than we would typically an earlier stage exploration project. It is quite remote, but we think that the chance of discovery is real there. I think those are going to continue to move forward. Now, we keep talking about lithium and the excuse me, and the battery metals and that side of stuff. Our initiatives on that lithium space, those are really, I think, going to be driving the value for the next 12 months, especially looking at brines, continental United States. It's a key metric for the U.S. government, or a key commodity for the U.S. government, to have lithium production in country. And Standard Lithium, what we modeled a lot of our work off of the previous work that they've done in pioneering in that brine space in the United States. We think we can push towards similar ideas to what they've put together, and the advanced project that they have in Arkansas now. So it's I'd love to say this is the exact project we're focusing on. This is the one, but it's all of the pieces are lining up for that lithium initiative, and we'll end up probably in the 12 project range on that once it's all said and done, and the acquisitions are finalized. So outside of that, right back to the Klondike. I think that there's a great chance of a significant drill intercept on that project, especially with the work we've done beforehand. And State Line, I mean, that one is just it's such a large regional play that it's going to take some time to really drill into it and really figure out the lay of the land. But we ended up acquiring a lot of data, the proverbial banker's box in the geologist's basement that we all love to find. It's a little treasure trove, if you will. And it's as you probably know, old exploration data is publicly available in Canada, whereas in the United States it really isn't. It's you have to go and find the people that actually did the work, or the companies that did the work, and acquire it off them. And we've managed to do that with these projects. So we're pretty keen to dig further into that and outline what we think we've got there.
So you further diversified your commodity exposure. Obviously, you've been involved in base metals, but you moved obviously into battery metals as well. And obviously, you mentioned lithium. Just wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about obviously going into the battery metals, why you decided that to obviously complement your portfolio, not just have base metals, but also have battery metals.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, and honestly quite a complex answer to be honest with you. But we've come up with a bit of a thesis and a bit of a narrative that we think holds water, and we hope others do as well. So along the base metals side, and why battery metals, kind of bringing them in on top, the piece of a battery that nobody talks about is the other half, which is nickel. Okay, so we like the nickel sector, we like the base metals sector, that's part of it, but you also need the lithium piece of it too, right? And so there's those two components. And when I say, I think battery metals might be the wrong moniker for it. I believe more of a new economy or electrification metals might be a better term for it, but battery metals just sounds good. Let's face it, it's just way easier. But it's as it sits today, with the amount of material we have on planet Earth, and so actually, let me take one step back. Oil, gas is a store of energy, right? Bunch of little things. They landed on the ground, got covered in mud, got compressed, made oil, and now the energy, their potential energy from those is sitting there. The same in our mind, and I really try and break this down because I'm a pretty simple person at the end of the day, is okay, we've got a bunch of renewable power now. How do we store that renewable power? And okay, well, same as oil, we need some place to store that energy. So that energy stored in the oil. Okay, let's store the energy in batteries or hydrogen or whatever the case may be. With that said, there's not enough metals in that battery sector, if you will, or that advanced metals sector produced today in order to meet these in reality unrealistic expectations that we're going to be whatever, carbon neutral by 2030. I think we'd all go bankrupt if that was the case. It's a nice concept, but let's face it, it's not probably going to happen. I think over the next 30, 40, 50 years, we start to reduce our expectation or our dependence on hydrocarbons. They're still going to have a place to play. I mean, we need plastics, we need northern climates still probably need some degree of diesel or gas to power their vehicles up there. But over a period of time, we're going to wean ourselves off of those, and that gives us an opportunity to increase production of battery and base metals in order to change that store of energy, where we're keeping that energy to use it later on. More electricity is used in the evening and the afternoon when people get home from work. And let's face it, solar isn't producing once the sun goes down and the wind doesn't blow all the time and all this. So that's the reason, that whole concept of a transition from a more hydrocarbon-based economy over to a more renewables-based, I shouldn't say economy, power production or power provision for the population, is why we think that there's a really good opportunity in those battery and base metals. So that's why we're pushing into them. And I mentioned, at the start of this question or start of this answer, I think that it might be the wrong moniker. Things like bauxite which you need for the production of is aluminum at the end of the day, is in order to have batteries in our cars that last longer and be able to propel them further, you need to ultimately reduce the weight of those cars. And one of the easiest ways to do that is in your chassis and building that out of aluminum and your components out of aluminum and other plastics and that. And so that's why we really like those bulks, specifically bauxite, for that reason, because the auto manufacturers, specifically the European auto manufacturers, are making a big push, not just towards bauxite, but towards ethically sourced and mined bauxite as well, which we're absolute supporters of doing it right and doing it once rather than going back and cleaning up a mess later on, which unfortunately our industry gets painted with that brush, and I think it's up to this next generation of explorers and miners in order to rectify that perception of us.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned lithium. Is there other battery metals or electrification metals that you may sort of focus on as well, apart from lithium? Have you got a sort of strategy that you're looking or particularly focusing on certain battery or electrification metals, or is it sometimes as deals come to you or you discover deals?
I think both. We stake projects for their geological potential. Unfortunately, we can't wave the magic wand and know what's there. So it's sort of a as it comes to us sort of basis. At the same time, along the electrification and battery metal side of stuff, copper is a major component. It's, copper, you can't get by without it. And we're making a very concerted effort to find more copper. That's one of the reasons we have our alliance with Alianza in the United States, is because we believe that the area has been underexplored for the last decade or so. People have sort of spent a lot of time going into South America, into various regions of Africa, sort of forgetting the backyard, if you will. There's been some exploration, there's been some good work, but there hasn't been a real concerted effort outside of Nevada, I would say, probably, and maybe Arizona. So we like copper. My COO Rory Kutlulu and I, we started our careers exploring for nickel, and love exploring for nickel, and we're excited to be starting to explore a few nickel projects again. We're putting them together right now, and specifically nickel sulfides. Plenty of nickel laterites around the world, but we've got a particular love for the nickel sulfides, and some may call us insane, but it's a lot of fun. And when you find them, they're really interesting deposits, right? And there's really good potential there.
Obviously, you've previously focused on North America, and obviously you have mentioned about South Africa. West Africa. Southwest, east, north. Wondered if you could just tell us a little bit more about what you're looking to do in Africa, and what you have been doing and what you're looking to do moving forward within the region.
Absolutely. Yeah. So through our finance and exploration efforts throughout the years, I guess I personally fell in love with West Africa when I was a diamond driller years ago, and absolutely just kept wanting to go back and do more work there. It just, worked through Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and some up in Senegal, and just found it to be a really, really interesting place for one, but also heavily endowed with mineral potential that's completely underexplored. And from a North American perspective, I don't think we really understand the African story very well, and what the potential is there. So it's not talked about in junior companies very often. But one of the reasons we listed in London was to be speaking with investors that really understand that African potential along the mineral exploration and development lines. And so what we're really we're making a big push into Cote d'Ivoire in particular right now, looking for local partners. We've got a set of local partners there currently that we're acquiring projects with, and tying them together and doing the early stage components of that. But we've taken a view that all the way from Guinea all the way down the coast there into Ghana, there's significant potential. And it's never the right time to enter, or it's never the ideal time to enter. It's you need to enter when you're ready to enter. And I think we're ready to enter that general market right now. Generally quite stable throughout the region. We're finding outside of Guinea, perhaps. I think I'm not going to get into a political commentary on the whole thing, but Guinea's gone through a revolution here recently, or a coup, and we'll see how that starts to play out. But with Guinea, you've got some very prolific financiers working in the area, specifically in iron ore right now, trying to build a mine, build a large railway to the south. We see Guinea as an interesting opportunity, specifically in bauxite. We really like the bauxite potential. Honestly, it's the best bauxite in the world throughout that region there. and the governments are pushing to bring in junior and mid-sized companies in order to help develop these projects now. And we want to be part of that whole process. We've previously spent years looking through the region, getting close on a couple of projects, not quite getting there. And, you know, it's one of those things that you keep reaching for and just kind of slipping through your fingers. A lot of historic data. That's the other thing that we really like about it. Base metals, bulks, the gold in particular is in Cote d'Ivoire for us right now, looking at Ghana a little bit, but the amount of historic information from geological surveys to World Bank surveys to other juniors that have come into the region and tried to do something and weren't able to execute necessarily, or took it to a point and then market fell apart. We thrive on data. Every time that we see a data-rich environment, we want to at least have a look at it and see what the opportunity really is, and see if there's projects that are open for acquisition or staking, or they're held by local partners that we can get involved with. So it's a diverse strategy down there right now. But you know, very specifically Cote d'Ivoire, gold, some base metal potential we feel, and Guinea on the bauxite side of stuff we think is a really good push right now, but are continuing to monitor the situation as far as the new government goes there.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were a driller, which I didn't know. So my question is, how has being a driller, obviously in your early days of your career, how's that helped you through your career to where you are today? Because obviously, if I've ever come across drillers, they tend to be drillers for life, and that's what they do. But you've obviously made that transition from being a driller to now managing and owning projects, and obviously being a CEO of a mining company. How has that process been for you? And I suppose what skills have you learned from being a driller that's helped you and enabled you to sort of be successful in what you're doing now?
Absolutely. So you're correct. Once you're a driller, you're always a driller, pretty much. So I'm a recovering driller still. But no, it really shaped my view on the industry early on. Learned resilience. You know, drilling's not necessarily hard work. It's the environment you're in. It's the weather. It's the you know, being in the hot, being in the extreme cold, being, you know, not having the niceties of you know, being in a camp or in town or all that. And I think it taught me personally resilience. It taught me a component of the business that you know, a financier or promoter wouldn't necessarily understand at the end of the day. Taught me operations. That was a big one for us. And after being a driller, I built two exploration service firms, and it took a lot of the experience that I got from seeing how others did it, and being, you know, a contractor to those exploration management firms, and taking that and putting it together and understanding, okay, well, this is what we can do better. This is what they did really well. We'll take part of that. And just over that period of time, really took the view that every person on an exploration site has a very specific function and use, right? So it's you know, whether you're a driller, or whether you're a geologist or a geophysicist or a core logger, everyone has a piece in the ecosystem in order to make it function. And as soon as you don't have one of those pieces that's functioning, the whole system breaks down. And it sounds a little silly that it's, you know, one person can make the whole system break down, but if you've ever been in a camp for a long time with the same people, you'll appreciate that. And so getting that resilience and being able to talk numbers and understand what realistic production rates are, as far as what a person can do in a day in certain rock types, and then taking that and being able to look at a project and say, okay, well, this is how much it's going to cost to drill. It's really I think it puts not only myself, but our team in a bit of a better position that we can evaluate contractors and projects from not only a corporate side, not only a technical side, but also from a logistics and operational side as well. And it honestly, I don't know really how to put it at the end of the day, but it shaped how I am as a person, and really it got me loving the industry. And I still work with the same geologists and contractors today that I worked with on my first program, believe it or not.
Yeah, but that just shows you, no matter what position you are within a mine, if you want to reach the top, you can. And Absolutely. It's just acquiring new skills, and I suppose understanding what you're going to be going into, and like you said, the resilience that you had as a person to overcome those challenges and have a goal and a destiny to reach that. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
you're right. It's if you want to start at the bottom, there's always an opportunity, as long as you're willing to learn, and you don't think you know everything, to move up and up and up and up and up and eventually own it. I fully believe that, and anybody can, not anybody, but the opportunity is there for anybody to attempt to do so.
Yeah. So as a conclusion, what's the remainder of this year look like?
Remainder of this year, get through these royalty, or these not the royalty acquisitions, but get through the lithium acquisitions, partner several of those projects out, hopefully see our first phase exploration programs and development programs on those. We will probably be bringing on a new director or two in the coming months here, in order to round out our presence in the UK. We're currently a very North American based company, and we're trying to move more over to UKs in order to make sure that we are able to address shareholders on a regular basis. And I would say that we'll see our first couple of acquisitions in Africa, and hopefully a couple of exploration programs. It's going to be a busy year, and we're right now we're just building up the rest of the plan for the back half of the year. We've got a pretty well defined the first quarter is almost over, so going into the second quarter, we've got a pretty well defined second quarter so far.
Yeah, well, if anything's like the last 6 months, I'm sure you're going to be busy for the next 6 months. So
exactly.
Yeah, no, Carl, really appreciate your time, and obviously keep up the good work. Hopefully you can come on later this year, later this year, and give us an update once you've got some more drill results or more deals that you're looking at, that you can obviously give more information on. So yeah, more than welcome to come back on.
Absolutely, Rob, really appreciate your time, and I look forward to coming back on later this year when we've hopefully got some exciting news off of some programs on the projects.
Yeah, definitely. And if our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? And again, are you across any social media platforms that people can reach out to you?
Absolutely. Cloudbreak Discovery on Twitter, and you can sign up for our newsletter at our website, www.cloudbreakdiscovery.com, and that'll keep everyone up to date. Additionally, our investor relation contacts are on the website as well. Yeah,
no worries. Wish you well in your last few days staying in London. Hopefully the manic outside calms down a little bit, so you can get around the city. But no, great talking to you, and those that are listening, appreciate your continued support, as I always say, and appreciate if you can share this episode amongst people that you know in the industry, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Australia, wherever you are. This podcast obviously goes out to, I think, over 170 countries around the world. So keep passing this podcast onto this episode on, and the podcast to others in the industry, so they have the benefit of listening and educating themselves within the industry. So appreciate your continued support, and until next time, happy mining.